Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have YouTuber T. Taylor. How are you doing today, T?
Great, thank you. Hey, everybody.
So wow, it's really cool the way you and so many other channels are popping up, and you know we're sort of we were the outcast for so long, but now it seems like people are coming to us and they're like, hey, we're like you. And it's so cool for us all to connect like this. I'm so glad that you took the time to come on here. And maybe, you know, some of my audience who's not subscribed to you already can check out your channel or whatever, because you go through a lot of the Ascension symptoms that you're dealing with and reports you hear from other people and different things like that. So we're totally in the right crowd here. So welcome to the program, T.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited that we could hook up like this because a lot of my subs watch you. So this is really great to be able to collaborate like that. And like you said, it's a niche, you know, but we're growing by the moment. So originally I get a lot of subs and they check my stuff out and then they'd freak out and then they'd unsub. And then they come back and then go, but she's still the only one showing it. So I have to check it out still. So but we're growing, like you said, which I love.
That's so funny because I watch the sub number, like just I'll glance at it, you know, and I'll notice it going up or whatever, but I hadn't really gotten to the analytics of it. So like I'd gone back in not too long ago, probably about a month ago, and I was looking at the analytics and you can see how whatever the number I go up, I go down about half that amount. So if I go up 1,000 subs in a month, I really gained about, you know, 1,500, but I lost like 700 or something like that. So it's like people just, you know, if they don't click with you, they unsubscribe, or there could be some shadow banning going on because I get reports of people saying, what happened? My bell got unclicked, or, you know, different things like that. So, but I think, you know, people find you if they're supposed to, through intuition and things like that. And I think we have help. I think, you know, we come up on suggested videos and things like that when we're not supposed to, from higher help.
A little help in there to combat the system. Right. Absolutely. But it makes me feel better you said that, because I was like, is it just me? So thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, I think I watched one of your videos a while back where you like lost 50 in a day or something like that.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. Some people thought maybe there were bots there to just review my stuff, because it's kind of right when the purge was starting to really kick into high gear. So, but that was a very abnormal circumstance for me to lose 50 overnight. Like I said, it was at a time where I was still just, you know, building little tiny bits at a time. So seems like the snowball effect is starting to take control a little bit, which is, like you said, help is coming, it seems like.
Totally, yeah. I think one thing that I've noticed, and I'll get into more of this with Magenta Pixie, because she talks about it in her book that I've been reading, but it's like a lot of the opposition we're facing is AI. Yes. So there's algorithms that we can actually beat if we just change up the wording a little bit, maybe put a money sign in there where an S should be. Yep. I mean, you won't get the sort of the organic from the hits from using the tags and stuff, but those are actually working against us at this point if you're putting out certain types of tags. So you want to avoid certain things, you know.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And then the whole thing with the voice, I don't know if you notice what because sometimes I'll put up a video to be all good and everything, and then a little bit later to be like, it's not advertiser friendly. And then I realize what's happening is the what do you call it, the closed captioning sort of sequences or it, you know, documents, transcribes all of the words that we speak. Right. And then some of those keywords come up, and if too many of them come up, then bam, you get the strike on there, and then all of a sudden you're not friendly.
Right. So funny you say that, because just this morning I put out a video going over the Wrinkle in Time movie, like over a year ago, I want to say. And just this morning, YouTube's like, I'm sorry, your stuff has been copyrighted, but you didn't get a strike. Don't worry. But, you know, just so you know, somebody else has claimed your money, basically. Not that I'm monetized yet, but, you know, they're like, here, we're going to just, and we're watching it. They said, we're watching your view count because we might change that.
Oh yeah, and they're going to slap some ads on your video now. So that's
Yeah, that happens a lot with my stuff. If I use any copyrighted music, they just take it, which is fine. You know, I know that. But there, like you said, there are ways around that. So like if you're trying to use something copyrighted, a lot of times I'll just take still images and then narrate it, but with some background noise, so it throws that algorithm off. You know, there are ways.
Yeah, there's totally ways that I noticed a lot of people will flip it and then add some kind of overlay with stars and things moving on it. I did that with the Lucy movie. I played a big clip, but I had like, it looked like a water drop in the middle where it was just sort of waves going outward, and it didn't catch it because it was just too confusing for it or whatever. But
I love that. You just got to be smarter than the AI, right?
Exactly. So unless you're like a huge channel with like, 100,000 subs or 500,000 subs, you're dealing with the computer, not an actual person sort of combing the web for you or whatever. So
a very interesting censorship time, that's for sure.
So how have you been feeling with energies and stuff lately?
Oh boy, how has everybody been feeling? Oh my gosh, right? Like I think everybody's exhausted. Everybody's just fatigued. We all need a little extra rest. But ever since I would say late May, June was a big one. And then I feel like with this 8/8 kind of coming up, this last eclipse coming in here pretty soon is going to be kind of a precipice to some energies. But yeah, that eclipse hit and it's been intense, I would say. I'm sure that a lot of people are feeling that way.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I hear reports all the time. In fact, during the stream the other day, several people were saying they felt nauseous, and I had my ears started feeling hot, and I didn't even notice until I heard people. I'm like, well, how do I feel right now? I'm like, well, my ears feel hot and they feel pressury. So I get a lot of ear stuff. How about you?
Yeah, I got a lot of ear stuff in the beginning. For me, that phase is past for the most part. I only get like increased pressure in my ears now if I call it a vibrational change or a frequency change. If you're shifting to another place, that's when my ear will ring so loud that it will close. Like, I don't know if anybody else has had that experience. And for me, that usually just is telling me, either pay attention to what you're doing right now because we're trying to tell you something. There's a synchronicity, or we're trying to give you some information and you're being stubborn again. Or B, you just shifted to a different place is kind of what it feels like to me. I never quite get that when I'm going down in frequency. That's more like you're just crashing into somewhere that you don't really want to be. And you're like, oh no, what just happened? That doesn't feel good. But the ear ringing for me is not so much anymore. But the nauseousness I had at the very beginning for 6 months, I threw up almost every day for like 6 months in the beginning. It was bad.
Oh, wow. It's like morning sickness, sounds like.
It was. If I was not completely sure that I could not be pregnant because I did not have fallopian tubes anymore, that was the question I got asked by everybody. Are you sure you're not pregnant? I'm like, unless it's gods or aliens, no. I'm impossible.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I had a really strange. Okay, so normally my ear ringing, because I hear people say, "Yeah, it lasted for minutes." My earring never lasts for minutes. It's like it's there and then it sort of fades out. And I would say a long one would be 10 seconds or something. But the other day, I ended the broadcast with Michelle Wolf on Tuesday, and I was talking to her right after we went off the air, and I got the strangest ear ringing. It was a beep. It was like beep, and then like. I was like, what the heck? Normally, they always fade out so you can tell it's an ear ringing, but this almost seemed like a beep. And if I'd had a device there, I would have even thought, maybe my device beeped or something. But it was the ear ringing tone. So really strange.
I agree. Mine doesn't last for minutes. Yeah, mine is I think the longest, maybe 30 seconds. And that was really abnormal for me. But yeah, it's usually just a few seconds and then it stops. But beeping, that's a good one. I haven't really got that yet. So that's interesting. Might have been your guys' connection that something came in. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm always wondering about downloads and stuff. And like you said, I always try to pay attention at those moments. I'm like, what's going on right now? And I've had synchronicities at that moment where I'm like, what's happening? And it's 333 or something. And just really funny because there was one time that I was in the garage and I got this ear ringing and I had just heard to pay attention to what's going on or whatever. So I poked my head in the door and I asked my daughter, I'm like, what time is it? And she's like, 1, 2, 3. She said it kind of puzzled in a way because she started to say 123 and then it just looked like 1, 2, 3 on there. And then she goes, oh my gosh, I only got 1% left on my battery. And I'm like, oh, maybe it was just so you'll plug your phone in or something. I don't know.
Right. That's so funny. I know my guy is always saying 1111. That was like his big thing in the beginning. I think it's because he's hard to wake up, that one. But it's so funny because I sent him a text this morning and I was like, oh, I sent it at 1111. Of course I did. Because why wouldn't I? Right. So.
I just noticed 111, 111 people watching right when you said 11.
Oh, no
11,
way.
that
Is so funny. See, synchronicities abound, right? You just got to find them.
And you know what? Another one that I get sometimes, since it's delayed, it's probably going to be, it's not going to be 111 by the time they hear it. But for me, when I look down, because it just jumped up to 116. But just the other day, sometimes I'll get mirror synchronicities, right? It'll be like, 1221. So, and I'll think of it like, like a reflection of something. And I try to pay attention to what's happening. But it was just the other day I realized that 1221, because that's one that I get quite a bit, is actually 11 111s or 111 11s. So,
right. But it's
wow.
so astute of you to pick up on that, because a lot of people that just, some people that just flies right by. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like the more you look for it. And for people that don't see it, it's like you're just making them up now or whatever. You're like, I had no idea that was 111 11s, right?
Right? Yeah, like how, it's so funny. If I'm looking down for everybody, I just, me and Shane already talked about this. It's just because I'm looking at the chat so that we can keep an eye on it if anybody's asking questions. So it's not, I'm not paying attention, everybody. I just wanted to.
Yeah, somebody, Vesper just said it's 123 watching now. There's the one.
That's so funny. See, there you go.
Yeah, and I get to 1234 and sometimes 321. I think of it like a countdown. I'm like, what am I missing?
Right. I get a lot of 144s, especially in the beginning. I got 144 everywhere for forever, and then it's I get a lot of like the 122 or 444s, but I do get a lot of those. Yeah, I don't get them as much as I used to, because I feel like once you start the process and you start opening up to the synchronicities and understanding that they're happening, you don't need kicked in the head quite as much as you did in the beginning with some of those downloads. Maybe I think sometimes once you see those numbers, then you actually get something subconsciously that we don't understand we're processing. Maybe it's just my thoughts. Yeah.
What are your other thoughts about synchronicities? Because I always view them as signposts, but some people are like, well, if it's twos, it means this. If it's threes, are you kind of like that about the numbers? Do you know?
Well, the numbers is, like I said, I think for me, the numbers in the beginning, but now it's passed into these crazy synchronicities. So I'll share this one, just a couple, well, I shared it on one of my other videos, but a little while ago, I went to the store and I was like, I was freaking out about money because money's been tight. I know for all of us, money seems to be a little tight because a lot of us are just not able to do the things that we used to do. Like I used to work in a medical office giving, I wasn't giving vaccines, but they work. I just can't do that. I just can't go back to that kind of a lifestyle now. But I was at the store freaking out about money a little bit. I remember being in the frozen food section and just going, I can pay for this, but I don't know what we're going to do for the next couple of days, And then I thought, stop. And I actually talked to myself out loud a little bit. So there's this guy at the other end of the frozen food section kind of eyeing me at like, what is wrong with this chick? But kind of intrigued at the same time what I was saying. And so I'm just going to trust that the universe will provide the money that I need when I need it. I just have to get into that frame of thought and get out of that lack crap mentality, that we all get stuck into and brainwashed. And so anyways, I got to the self-check, and then there's a $20 bill literally sticking out of the change return slot, like a slot machine. And I'm like, looking around, but there's so many things that had to happen just right. Like the one I usually use was out of order, like it was up, and I've never seen that happen. There was no other one available. The chick who normally would probably have grabbed it that was working at the self-check was completely into this conversation with somebody else, so she wasn't looking around. And normally I would never take that, so please don't everybody think I'm a terrible person. But I was like, I just said I was going to let the universe bring me money, so I'm not going to, I'm going to go ahead this time and take it. So I did. Don't tell anybody. I was like, I'm going to take that. But the funniest thing is I was at the same store 2 nights ago, and I was like, gosh, I'm just kind of worried about that money issue. And then I said, same thing, exact same place, right? As I'm walking the self-check, I said, I'm just going to trust that the universe will work it out. Now, I didn't come through as a slot machine this time, but at that exact same minute, I got donated a decent amount of money on my PayPal. And it was like, you just got to trust sometimes. But there are synchronicities abounding. We just have to, really start trusting the universe and be opening to, the way that they come in and paying attention, I would say.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I started doing this in the beginning, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, worrying about money and stuff, because this isn't, maybe if you have 1 million viewers, you can make a decent living, but these aren't popular subjects, and I don't really chase the trends. So here I am at 11,000 subs, and still I'm like happy when it might pay my internet bill or something.
Right? Totally with you.
So I've had people that actually supported me through PayPal, like you're saying, or whatever, and times it gets tough, and I'll come down to the wire, and I'm like, oh, is somebody going to donate? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And it's usually not what I expect, you know what I mean? But I do know that as long as I'm doing this, and I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't have to worry about that. It's like, it just things, whatever it is, it will come through. And it's usually not what I'm thinking. So if, you know, it's just strange. And it was almost like your higher self says, no, if you think it's going to be this way, I'm going to do it this way this time, or whatever.
Right. So, I was told very early on, don't narrow in the focus on the way it comes in. If the way that, you know, we kind of all start into this is we all go into that, I can manifest. Wow. So this is, I want to check in the mail for this X, you know, and we try to really narrow that focus. And I was told in the very beginning, don't narrow it down, because the universe will bring you something so much more than you have, you know, that's so much better than what you could have thought. But it's retraining our brains to not be in that lack mentality, to not be stuck in that brainwashed, you know, kind of poverty system. And so he's, you know, and that goes with everything, not just money, but, you know, it's kind of that retraining of ourselves to trust that it will come in. It's just it might not come in the way we expected, like you said.
And that's so funny, because a lot of us, I think we do ourselves a disservice, because we're not really, we don't care about money that much. So it's like we just want our needs met, but it's like beyond that, we don't care about stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like we can do ourselves a disservice by not attracting things to us with the law of attraction, because we just don't really put much focus on that. And I think that's one of the things, like I'm limping along with 2 older computers, right? And that's one of the things I've been trying to work on. It's like, I'm going to attract the newer system and you know, something that will allow me to do better on my broadcast, you know what I mean? Because this is my life, you know, so I don't, you know, that's really what I care about. So, but you know, you can get content with where you're at. You're like, this is working right now, I'm content. And there's like a fine line between like wanting something better for yourself and really being content, because we really should be thankful for what we have, right? But at the same time, we shouldn't limit ourselves to like, this is as good as it's going to get for me. Let me just be happy with what I have here. So that's really where I'm at right now with the whole, and that's what I consider to be abundance, really, is like having things I need for the show. So it's really a fine balance between, you know, what your thoughts are creating for yourself. And a lot of times we can get content and relaxed in a lacking state, you know what I mean? And not really attract those things to us.
You're absolutely right. And so many of us, like me, I kind of abhorred money. Like I hated what it stood for. I hated, you know, most of us do, but I had to get out of that place and learn, you know, and I think some of us have, if you want to say contracts, or we come in with this, you know, kind of, maybe it's a previous life experience or something. And so we really have to get past all that. And I had to get to a place where I was like, money is an energy, and it's okay for me to have it, and I'm worth having it. It doesn't make me one of those, you know, people that, you know, we see just squander it and do terrible things with. Should I buy $100,000 Birkin bag, or should I buy, you know, $100,000 pair of shoes? Right. You know, it used to make me sick, but now it's like, you know, we just have to realize. And I think like what you were saying was really important about you're wanting that new system to feed back into this mission or this goal that you have to help others. And so that will come in. So I think really quickly for you though, honestly, because as long as we're sharing and giving back, that's when I noticed that it really just moves along in the most beautiful way, you know? And so I think when we get stuck into a selfish perspective, I just want a vacation for myself, or I just want this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we can give back, it just comes in much faster, I've noticed.
Oh, yeah. And when I think of vacations and stuff, I just think of going to like East City Ranch and doing like a broadcast from there, or you know, Disclosure in the Desert, or some of these things like that. I'm like, that would be an awesome vacation for me. Right. I'd go there, I'd do a video, and it would just be totally cool, like doing it on scene or whatever. So
that would be cool. Yeah, I haven't had a vacation in 20 years. So for me, like going to a Hotel 6, you know, down the block, wouldn't take a lot to, I don't have the bar set too high, you know what I mean?
And I think that's sort of what we're getting at. It's like sometimes we can do ourselves a disservice because we hate the monetary system. We don't really want any part of it. You really have no choice to at least pay your bills. So that's usually the extent of what we want to deal with, right? So it's like you know, it's a necessary evil at this point. But until it all falls away, I guess we just have to deal with it. And
right. So should we take any of these comments from the
What do we have here?
Kate Wright just said, I'm biased and on the fence. I'd love to hear more about her crystalline activation. My palms and arms are glittery in the sun.
Ah, I've had that too. So what do you know about that? Because I've noticed that in the sun, I'll like wipe my hands off and then I'll see it looks like I've got glitter all over my hands. What's the deal with that?
So like I tell everybody, here's my like kind of for pre-warning on what I will say about the whole crystalline DNA or DNA activation thing is, yeah, I'm nobody's teacher. All I can do is share my experience and, you know, where my perspective is. I don't have all the answers. So let's just get that right out there. But what I would also say too is that in my documentation and studying of this, put the chat down for a second, there is a definite process happening. And like I said, when this first started for me, I had been kind of an indie medical researcher. I had been in the medical community for, 15 plus years. And then when my son became a regressive autistic, that's what I did is I tore apart autism. So that's kind of was my foot in the door, to my first rabbit hole, vaccines and things. We all have our original rabbit hole that kind of takes us to a closer look at the control system. And then B, it got me into that background. I think I'm a little bit of a medical intuitive. I think that's just a natural ability for me, is I just happen to find the right things for the right thing. I've helped a lot of other people. I used to do autism biomedical consulting for other parents. And so I would just be able to naturally just kind of find what would work best for their kid, it seemed like at the time. But when this started, I went to my doctor. I tried to talk to the people that surround me, my parents, my kids, my guy. And I was like, this is actually happening. Look what I'm saying. And they all thought I was nuts. They all thought I was crazy. It triggered them. And I think that happens when people just aren't ready. I think people have to be ready to acknowledge that this is even happening in the first place. And so what I did is I thought I will just start documenting the process so that when they are ready, that there will be something for somebody to go on. Because in the very beginning, when I started seeing these things, the only thing that I could find when I looked up any of the symptoms was Morgellons, which I hated. I hated the whole vibe. It just is such a fear narrative. You're sick, you're dying, this is demonic, this is a terrible thing. And if you go on any Morgellons sites, for the most part, it's like it's a comparison of lesions. It's this, it's that, it's these horrible, scary things. And so I didn't like that narrative. And at the beginning, I think everybody goes through that. They get into that fear place originally, because what you're seeing is supposedly not possible. It's not biologically possible for a human being. It's outside of anything we've ever been told is supposed to be possible. So if your doctor has no idea, and a lot of doctors, I tell people, received a memo, I think it was 2015, that said they were not to examine, treat, or diagnose anybody with the following symptoms. And it was basically Morgellons symptoms. It was rashes, filaments, fibers coming out of the skin, anybody who felt like they had bugs or that itching sensation in their hands or wherever. They didn't really mention sparkles specifically that I was aware of. But yeah, and so I think a lot of doctors, and a lot of labs in the very beginning, when they got samples sent to them, were threatened with losing their accreditation if they even processed the samples. So it's like, I don't know if we're still there. I'm not sure, and then the CDC, of course, had their cover up where they said it was delusional parasitosis, which they've reversed at this point. They're actually saying there is a pathology, but they've held multi-day symposiums on it, but they don't let the public know that, My personal belief is that this is a natural DNA activation that we had. The way I look at it is we had a cast put on our DNA. And it was like there was things done with technologies that we just didn't know. Sound frequency, we had no idea affected our actual being. We were always told the physical body, that's it. Well, our energetic body, I think, is so much more. I think that feeds our physical body. So if your energetic body is messed up, that's when you'll see signs of illness and disease, and you'll get into these really icky places. But they of course don't want us to know that, because our entire system is built off pharma, which is money. It's for profit. It's not for health. It's for profit. If you look at pharmacy, it's like pharmakia, to poison. You have to start. But with the sparkles, I believe that is a DNA activation. I call them fractals. Some people would call them adamantite particles, depending on which place you listen to. Magenta Pixie would probably call it crystalline DNA, or Lisa Transcendence Brown, like I kind of do. And the way I look at it is, there's a guy who has a really great video called Saturn Rising. That's the name of the channel. And he kind of goes through the Bible and decodes the Bible on this process and how it happens. And it comes through the pineal gland. And then this sacred oil, or this crystalline fluid, then starts to flow once you really start to get in balance with yourself. And I love how he kind of decodes it that way. I'll see if I can put a link up after everything's said and done. But for me, I just noticed the more it activated and the more glitter, sparkles that I saw, the more amazing things that I saw that just shouldn't be possible coming out of a human biologically, like these crystals that were every color of the rainbow and colors I'd never seen before, but they were so specifically placed that there was just no possibility it was random. So for me, it was like, there's three options: aliens, God, like an actual divine intelligence, or a man with technologies that we had no idea were possible, because it was so huge. And like I said, it wasn't just me. And so, you know, it's just one of those things. And I think everybody has to come to their own decision on what it is for them. But I just started being led with synchronicity to light body things, you know, old ancient texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, some of the stuff they talk about in the Bible. Every culture has talked about this process since as far back as we have records. And so, you know, I got a big turning point for me as I was led to Escocaris, Escarchas, or it's also called God's Glitter. And what I saw on people who had devoutly worshipped, I mean, some of this, they have some of these like giant, I don't know what you want to call it, like plaques with these Escocaris pieces in monasteries still hanging up, because it's like little gold pieces. And that happens sometimes on people they saw who devoutly worshipped, or even items that were devoutly worshipped. And so for me, that was the first time that I saw something that wasn't negative. And I went, that, but the specimens that they had was exactly what I had collected on my own. And I went, holy shit, Nikes, you know, like, whoa. And that was a big turning point for me. But I, you know, like I said, all I can do is document the experience. And the more it seems to activate in me, the more abilities I get and the more knowing I get, you know. And so I still get told, like just the other day I put a video out and I still get told that I'm being deceived, that this is the big deception, that I'm on Lucifer's team, that I've, you know, caved and I've, you know, or I'm a transhumanistic robot, you know. So,
well, I got news for you. That's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm prepared for that, you know. And like I say, all I can do is just, like I said, share my experience. If it leads there, it leads there, you know. But I didn't ask for this. For me, I just woke up from an NDE and had this happening. So, you know, just is what it is. But I think everybody will be able to start seeing it soon, you know, that's going through it.
You touched on NDE. Do you have any remembering? I'm getting sort of an echo back through. Let me see. Oh. A bassy echo. There, it went away. Okay, so do you have any remembrance of your NDE experience at the time that you were?
Yeah, you know, mine was different than what a lot of people's probably would consider an NDE. A lot of people have that moment in a car accident or something where they have that flash in the tunnel and, you know, it's just this one moment. For me, I call my NDE, it was like a 2-month period. I had 3 surgeries in 2 months. And so for me, I kind of wrapped that all in. But that last surgery that I had, which is where they finally took out my fallopian tubes, I just woke up different. And I just woke up, some people would say almost like a walk-in, but I just woke up with something activated in me. What I could just see more layers and details and things. I woke up with this knowing. It just was my eyes. I actually, when I woke up from the surgery, I couldn't actually focus my eyes to read print for 2 weeks. And they were like, we don't know if that's ever going to come back. Like, sorry. And I'm like, what do you mean? And what does that have to do with my girl stuff? Like, how did that happen? How did that get crossed?
Right.
But I started to notice that I could just see more layers and details and things. I call it light language. And then I just started getting weird supernatural things happening. My phone's opening on their own, kind of like that guy with Sam that you've had on and interviewed a few times. I just started having, you know, my TV come on to random things, web pages. And I just started to, yeah. And then that process just started to really kick off. And so I was just like, okay. But for me, I didn't have like the tunnel. I did one occurrence before my ND where I don't know if, I don't call it a dream because I was awake, but I was really sick. And I had this vision, I guess. And I've never been into organized religion, but I've always been very spiritual. But I had this vision of me walking with Jesus hand in hand through these like desert, but the walls were like built, it's like a maze, but the walls were sand and they were really high. And he said, you know, it's time. It's time. And we talked about this and are you ready? And the one phrase I had over and over in my head was, you will be one of the first to change and you will help them. But at that point, I had no idea what that meant because this hadn't started in me. And I, you know, didn't know anything about awakening. I didn't know anything about any of that. So I just thought, well, that was weird. Me and Jesus hanging out. Okay. What, you know, I'm waking up. Okay. What do you do with that? But yeah, I didn't have like the white tunnel or anything like that, but it was definitely, I just woke up different than when I went under is what I would say. And Jillian Hendricks, I had her on, or no, she had me on her channel, and she had a very similar experience with the NDE. Same, almost exactly, same exact, almost issues, girl issues, and then woke up, same thing, just in a very different place than when she went under. So I think a lot of us had what I would call NDEs, or severe medical crises, in like 2015 to 2017. And I think that's how a lot of us woke up, you know, but like you said earlier, I think it takes, when we're comfortable, it takes something that really kicks us in the face to wake us up, you know. And I think some of us might have been, I have a video out called We Are Sleeper Cells. I think some of us might have had pre-programmed timings on that this is when you're, because it's just too many at the same time. You know what I mean? I remember when I shared on Rainbow Fish, I had hundreds of people saying, oh, I had an NDE in 2015 or 2016 too. And it's so similar to what you're saying, but it's crazy.
Oh yeah. I've had them all the way back, it seems like, to 2012 and forward that they've been happening. I think Nathan, who I have on all the time, his was in 2013, and then
early. Okay.
Yeah, so it seems like maybe it was a 2012 shift or something.
Yes,
so.
I do think there was a big shift in 2012. Yeah, I'm a little hard-headed because I'm a Taurus, so it probably just took me a little longer. I was really comfortable at where it was. Don't like change, so.
Well, it was beginning of last year for me. I'm an Aries. I don't know how that. I've never been into astrology too much, but in fact, it wasn't until I woke up last year that I can actually say I'm an Aries. I know that now.
Wow.
Most of the time people would be like, oh, when's your birthday? And I tell them, they're like, oh, you're an Aries. And because I just didn't know, you know, being raised Christian, it was like, that's a no-no. You stay away from
it. Right. No tarot cards, no astrology. That's
right.
Bad. That's funny though. But yeah, I think a lot of us needed something to wake us up. I think that's why you see a lot of people with having to move houses, losing relationships right now, you know, just their jobs not working. But, you know, some of us have to have something huge to kind of, I say, you know, some of us roll out of bed gently and are like, I'll have my cup of coffee and I'll just take my time waking up and it'll be fine. Others like me, a little bit of like you, maybe a little bit of a procrastinator, right? A little more hard-headed. So sometimes it's like they have to pick the bed up or put a giant thing of ice water on us and be like, now you're going to wake up because, you know.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have an NDE. My whole thing was the Mandela Effect when I finally, and I had heard about it for like a year, but when I finally started seeing things in reality change, I was like, wait a minute, I need to go back to the drawing board. This is some crazy stuff going on here, you know?
And then you know what you know what you knew, right? It's like, I think that was a big wake up for a lot of people when you start knowing that your memory is your memory. And then now there's something totally different where it was.
Yeah. And it doesn't match with the reality. Then you start thinking, I mean, gosh, I thought, you know, I wondered, man, have I died? Has someone implanted these memories? I've gone down pretty much every rabbit hole with this. And when I talk to other people with it, I realize how intricately designed it is and how like individual it is for each person. And it's not like we all shifted into another reality where we're all like, I remember it this way and now this. I mean, some people remember some things and not others, and it's completely individual. So that led me to understand, and then the way some people just don't see it, that it has to be of a design in nature, you know, a divine designed nature.
Right. And I think that's a really good point. And I tell people all the time, because a lot of people say to me, well, you know, I don't see my sparkles, you know, as much as you do. And, you know, and that's what I tell people, you know, this happens so individually at a unique time for each person. And that's why I think it's definitely divine intelligence, because we're all so individual, and then we all have different DNA. You know, we all have our own individual DNA and body chemistry. And so the way I look at it is like, you know, each person has to go through their own process, and what your belief systems and what your thought process is, that's going to dictate how this comes in for you, you know, because everybody has different beliefs. And so what was such an epiphany for me will mean nothing to somebody else, you know, but for me, it hit me just the right way. That was like, that's the information I needed at the time. But, you know, a lot of people are they're going to go through this at a unique time for them. And the light body, as far as the physical process, the way it was explained to me was, because I get these weird messages, was if we all just went through it immediately, if we could all just see the 99 other percent of what's out there that we can't see, we'd go nuts. Like it would literally so many people would be running down the street screaming, right? And just freaking out. It'd be utter chaos. And then B, our physical bodies just couldn't handle that much of a change. We would die. Our physical is like coming up from deep sea diving. If we came up too fast, we get the bends. It wouldn't be good for us. So that's why each person has to strengthen their light body. And then that process will come in for them at the right time, you know, and that just goes back into what we all know with this, you know, balancing, cutting out crap that's chemical, you know, fluoride and aluminum and, making sure you detox your body and not putting a bunch of processed crap in anymore. But it'll happen naturally, I think. I don't think anybody needs to freak out. I think it's just little bits that'll happen naturally for you.
Yeah, I think we'll just be led to deal with things as they come up. That's how it's been for me anyway. It hasn't been a serious, like getting off pharmaceuticals and stuff, as I mentioned before we went live or whatever. That sort of happened in a way that, I wasn't really trying to get off of them. It's just I didn't have the money to pay for them anymore. And I was like, I'm going to just try to make it without this. And then so things just work out. We're helped. I mean, it seems like coincidences led me to where I am right now, but I know better now.
Right. Yeah. I used to believe, right. And my parents used to laugh because I used to say there's, everything happens for a reason, and people just get so tired of that. But it's like more people are realizing this is a divine orchestra. Nothing is random. Nothing is chance, especially if so many of us that are awake go back and look at our lives, and we can go, oh my gosh, look how this all lined up for this. But like what you were saying with the pharmaceuticals, I think is a really key point too. A lot of people write to me about that, and they're like, I'm trying to get off of this. And, they're like, I'm trying not to take it, but it's freaking. And I'm like, it'll happen naturally. Don't freak out about it. Because what will happen is the more of my crystalline DNA activates, the more my physical body is like, I'm just not going to tolerate you putting this in anymore. So it's like at the beginning, if I would try and eat something that I just couldn't eat anymore, it would literally make me sick. Either it would sound so good, and then it would come to the table and I'd take 2 bites and go, oh no, that's not going to work. Or I would actually eat it and then get some gastrointestinal issues afterwards. And it just wouldn't be, I just wouldn't want to do that again, and same thing with pharmaceuticals, because I used to be on a ton of stuff for my lupus. Since has disappeared, and it's just like little bit by little bit, it's just easier to get off. Or something comes up like you don't have the money, or, circumstances just happen. Like I had a friend of mine who was into the illegal drug kind of side of thing. And, those people got removed from my life. And it's just like timelines separate, because that's just not going to be in your best and highest good anymore. So just let it flow is my advice to people. Don't freak out about it. It'll just happen naturally.
And most importantly, I think that a lot of people don't even think about it until they get so down on their luck, is to ask for help.
Exactly. Right.
Because there's this whole agency at work with, it's like unlimited resources at our disposal that we don't do it until it gets so bad that it's like, I need help, and we cry out for help, and then we get it, but we don't have to wait for things to get so bad,
Right. And we've been brainwashed into thinking that, we get brainwashed talking so negatively to ourselves, and we're brainwashed into thinking, like when I first woke up and everybody in my reality, I try to tell them exactly what we're talking about. And they're like, no, that's not how the world works. It screws us in every, and they have that whole mindset. And so it's really that reprogramming yourself to be able to be open to asking for help. And sometimes we have to get to that dark night of the soul where we surrender and just go, and I really could use some help here. I mean, we all go through that. It's just some people's last longer. Yeah.
When did your dark night of the soul come in relationship to your NDE? Before or after?
Quickly. Like almost right away. Like pretty much from the day I came out of my surgery. In fact, the day I was already having everything was already kind of starting to collapse right before that 2-month period where I had a couple of surgeries. Like my guy was a mess. My kids were a mess. Everything was just starting to collapse. It felt like a little bit. And so like the day I came out from that surgery, in fact, the morning when we went to go into it, I said to my guy, I have a really bad feeling about this. I actually didn't know if I was going to come up off the table, because the other 2 surgeries were so quick, and my being Rh negative, sometimes we just don't do well with surgeries. And so my body was pissed, physically. It was like, this is too much, too fast. And I'd been so sick with infections and everything. But from the moment I came out, it was like, we're waking you up rapidly right now. Like there's no other option for you, because you've got some stuff you need to do. And so I went through a couple months at least where I was just terrified and didn't know what was happening. And then it got to a moment where, like you said, you have to get to that kind of precipice moment where I remember being in the bathroom, and for me, I've told people this, it's like I was looking at I was documenting what was happening to me, and I still had no idea this was a good thing at this point, because I hadn't seen any sparkles at that point. I just seen really icky stuff. And so I was looking at my son's comb, and I saw the same filaments that were coming out of his hair. And I remember just freaking out to God and just going, rah, I know that there's no universe I would have signed up for, because I had such a hard time bringing my boys in the first place, that I would have been like, I'm totally okay with them being, turned into something, I just knew that wasn't a possibility at that point. But I had to surrender, and I had to say, look, this is so beyond me. And what I will do is, no matter what is happening, I'll go out with love, and even if, let's just say this is man-made, and even if I got sprayed by some crap, let's just say, it's chemtrails, and, they're trying to turn us into let's just say, for the sake of argument, I said, I will be like that chick from Resident Evil. just because she got injected with the T virus, she didn't mutate into some horrible monster. I will flip that crap because I'm not going to let anything take over my consciousness. That's how I felt about it. And I will fight till the end, you know, so to speak. Like I will do the right thing till the end. I will love till the end. I will do what I always wanted to do, is help people till the end. And so whatever that means. But I claimed my sovereignty that night because I'd heard about it. And then the very, like within the next day or the day after is when I found that first like sparkle or geometric fractal. And I went, well, this is different. This is better than what was coming out. So I'll take it, you know, but that was the beginning of my journey. But I just remember there were so many nights and some people go through that dark night of the soul where they think they're done and then it comes back again for a little bit. And they're like, oh crap, I thought I dealt with these issues. But I remember another night just sobbing in the bathroom and saying, I need one other person who's going through this. And literally within 5 minutes, my phone beeped and I got a message from somebody who's a good friend of mine now. And she's like, same thing's happening to me. But that was the first person. But I had to ask for help and say, I need a little help with this. Please don't make me do this all alone. Please.
I totally, yeah. And the last video you put out where you were showing some of the things you came up with, I think if anyone else is experiencing anything like that, they should check out that video and see if it, you know, if it's similar to what they've been experiencing. Because I can imagine people noticing things and sort of getting freaked out by it because you're like, this doesn't seem normal, you know. I remember
it's not normal, right? And yeah, disclaimer on that video for anybody who's not seen that very last video I put out. I would put that together over a long period of time. I thought long and hard before I put it out. I kind of sat on it for months because I thought I just don't know people are ready for all of that because I didn't want people to freak out. I don't want people to view this as a scary process, but I always promised I would just be honest about the process regardless of what it showed. And so I thought, well, I had enough people writing in and sending me pictures. I thought people, I think, are ready for this. So I put it out there, but I was ready for.
Well, I think more importantly, if someone else is dealing with that and they don't have your video to look at, you know, I think that would be more troubling than someone who might come across it and they're not dealing with it yet, you know, or they deal with it in the future. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. I remember seeing this video where somebody was dealing with it. So,
and that's what I did. I wanted to get ahead of people. That's exactly why I did it. Thank you. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've noticed, besides the sparkles in the hands, is now this is really hard. And I've got my wife to notice it. I've gotten pretty much everyone in real life to notice this. And it's when you're looking up at the sky and the sun's out and you're looking at the beautiful clouds. Sometimes when you're looking up there, you can see sparkles everywhere. I mean, yes, it seems like it's your eyeballs doing it at first, but it's not. It's like you're seeing energy, it almost seems like. Yeah. And okay, so this is how you see it because it's really hard to see it. It's almost like when you look up at the sky and you have those floaters, those shadowy floaters on your eyeball, and you don't notice them because you're not paying attention to, you know, the surface of your eye, these little fuzzies that get on it from lint and things like that. It's the opposite of that. Instead of it looking shadowy, it looks like bright little sparkles, and they're everywhere. They're filling the sky basically, and it's almost like you're seeing energy.
You are, and that's it absolutely ties into what we're seeing within ourselves. Some people, if you listen to some videos, they would say those are adamantite particles. Some people would say they're higher photonic energy. I believe it's what the controllers have tried to keep out all this time. I think that they had tried to keep that out of our atmosphere this whole time so that we couldn't have this kick off within us. Because what happens when we have this process activate, we unplug from their system because we wake F up, you know, we're like, oh, but so many people are starting to say that they can see that, those, you know, sparkles in the sky. You could say it's higher photonic energy, but once you start seeing that, like, watch out, you know what I mean? Because it changes everything really. And it's so exciting though that you've gotten the people around you to see it, because a lot of people still are not ready. You know what I mean?
Most of the people that notice is like WTF immediately. They're like, what? Because you don't know, you can look at the sky all day and not notice it. I mean, you have to literally like ignore the clouds and just pay attention to your field of view. And then all of a sudden it's like, I like to think of it like those fireworks that go off. And then at the end, they sort of go all these different directions. You're like, oh, that was cool with it. But it's like that. It's like they're moving around all these different directions. And it's really cool.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I'd say that there's, you know, a few groups of people. There's the people who can, like you and me and probably everybody watching your channel at this point, who've picked up on this. We feel it. We're probably sensitive already. Someone calls first wavers or second wavers, but yeah, we're aware, right? Then there's the second group, which is they don't really see it until you point it out. And then they're like, oh crap, I see it now. Now it's real because now it's happening. I see it now. It's happening to me. And then there's the third group of people who, you know, I describe it like standing on a rug is the way it was described to me. You know, they're not going to get it until the very end. Even if you point it out, they're going to be like, it's too outside of what they're ready for. And so it won't be till the end of the process that they look down and go, or look up, you know, and go, oh my gosh, how did that happen? You know, and then they'll have to admit by the divine process. And I think there's a fourth group of people who they're just not going to go through it. You know, they're just going to decide that that's not what they want to do with their journey, you know. So.
I think if I wasn't taking the time to go sit in the backyard and just stare at the sky and meditate, I mean, who does that? Right. Normally we're just dealing with the grind. If we look up, it's because we hear an airplane or something or a bird, and we don't even look at the sky and enjoy nature and things like that. And it wasn't until I started, because a lot of my meditation is just going in the backyard and like really taking in the sounds of the birds and the wind and the trees and just watching everything seem like it's so alive, the blades of grass. And that's sort of my meditation, because that helps me it helps my brain not think about things if I'm just sort of paying attention in the moment, you know. So I wouldn't have noticed those sparkles everywhere if I wasn't doing that. So a lot of people just don't take the time, I don't think. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And that's why I feel really bad for that. There's a group of people I kind of put like my guy into that group because he's so busy working every minute because he doesn't have a choice, really. You know, he's got child support he has to pay. He's got to keep a roof over his head, but he doesn't have that time. So like what you're saying, just meditate and kind of start to look at these other things. And so I do feel like there's something that's going to happen, whether we want to call it the event, like Allison Co has talked about, or some QHHTs, or, you know, so many of us are talking about it, that something will shift for those people as well at some point. I'm not sure when that will be. But I definitely do feel like there are some people that they need that opportunity. Because for me, that's how it worked for me too. It was having those moments to be able to just be still, to be able to go within. And some people I feel really bad for because they don't have that opportunity. But I think people are going to start making it more of a priority. You know what I mean too? That maybe those people who have been stuck on that hamster wheel are going to start saying, the time I do have off, I am going to start looking at these. You know, I think everybody's going to be nudged towards that in a very loving way, you know, from source. You could say.
We got a question here from Sherry, Overprotected, who says, ask if she's heard of people seeing rainbows in the sky where they're supposed to be, but it's like a peripheral vision rainbow only.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. And you'll start to notice too that when you get to, I have a video out called Changes or Visual Abilities, New Visual Abilities Coming Online. And I have a whole video where I talk about how our visual abilities, as this process is happening, say crystalline DNA activation, light body integration, your entire cellular structure will change. And so you will have visual changes that start with your eyes, you know. So you'll start to be able to notice, you could say, multidimensional aspects that maybe we couldn't see before, but it will start from the peripherals. I talk about dragonflies and how they have the best visual ability out of anything on the planet. And so we will start to develop more and more abilities. In the very beginning, I could only see flashes out of the peripheral for just like a fraction of a second. But now I see things head on, and especially if there's a light source. So if the sun's out, and I bet a lot of people like you know what I'm saying right now, when you can look through the sun, you'll start to see this whole other like dimensional ability open up. You'll start to see these layers and details that we never were able to see before, but it will start from the peripheral for just a fraction of a second. A lot of people will notice the prism effect, the rainbows, or you'll start to notice almost a figure, but either in white without details being able to be seen, or blue. A lot of people will see the blue, but that will get more and more and more the more that you have this process integrate. So
or even shadowy figures I've noticed a few times.
Yeah. And then, because there's a whole, like I said, we see, it's like the iceberg. We have the 1% we see. So there's a lot of things out there that are all around us. You know, it's like we're in this soup that that's been cut off from us being able to see everything that we're, that's woven through and around us. So there's good stuff, but there's also bad stuff. So, that's why, being strong in your own power is so important, and not giving your power away. I think that's a huge part of this.
And really, you're like untouchable if you could stay away from the fear and the anger. Those are all just doorways that you open when you resonate in anger at someone or fear what's going on. And it's like, once you realize that, it's like you realize it's you've got the shield on, you know, that
right.
they can't, and you know, just don't open the door.
Right.
It's tough. That's what the world's about. It's like trying to get that door open. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. And then in the beginning, a lot of people just asked me, especially on a couple of my last videos, they said, you know, in the beginning, it's almost like you're attacked. You know, it's like you have, you know, that targeted individual thing going on. And I said, I think that is part of the awakening. I said, I almost feel like this buzzer goes off when you wake up, you know, and it's like in this room. And, you know, there's like, you know, the old, you know, switchboards where they're putting lines into everything. They're like, oh, 3A, whatever number's awake. Somebody, you know, is assigned to go handle them. And I think they do try and, you know, if they can take us out, if they can make us take ourselves out or drive us insane, I mean, we do lose a lot of people to insanity or self-harm because the resources just haven't been put in place. You know, the way that shamans deal with it and tribes is so different than how we deal with it with Western culture. Most people go through a spiritual awakening and up in a mental place, you know, if it's really intense, because we are taught if you're hearing voices, you're schizophrenic. You know, if you're seeing things, there's something wrong with you. And it's not necessarily the case, but, you know, there is mental, you know, disease, but there's also, you know, a whole spiritual side of things that's starting to wake up. So I do think if you just take the fear out, like I just made a nickname for what I called my handler in the beginning, you know, I called him some profanity stuff, you know, but I just made a joke out of it, you know, and I was like, I feel bad for you. What'd you do? Draw the short straw? Like, seriously, like you got me, I will drive you crazy. I never shut up. You know what I mean? And it just was like, the energy just left really quick. Cause it's like, oh, I can't deal with her. She's not going to buy into my crap. You know what I mean? And it's like, you do have to feel what you feel. You know, we hear a lot of, you know, we have to be loving all the time. And I think that that's an accurate statement. You have to feel your emotions, but you stop reacting to the intensity that you used to react to. And you definitely do remove the fear and the anger usually. You know, when you do react, it's from a place of hurt usually or pain. So you do temper that. And I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, you take the fear out and they can't feed off that stuff anymore, you know?
Yeah, it has been like a battle to get to that point because you see the darkies on the planet, the bad actors, and you really have to strive to get to that point Jesus was at when he said, "Forgive them; they know not what they do," and realize that if you were put in all the same situations that they were, you could have ended up the same exact way, doing the same exact things they're doing, and that sort of helps you rise above the duality of all of it and just see it for what it is, you know. They're playing their part. These people are playing their part. I'm glad I'm on the light team, you know.
Right.
Go team light.
You're absolutely right. Patty Miller says, can someone close to you being derailed cause light to dim or go away? I feel like I have lost my light. And here's what I would say that, because I get asked that a lot too. I also get asked a lot by people. I saw the sparkles one day, but now they're gone. What happened? Did I screw it up? Am I stuck? Like, did I go backwards? And here's what I would say. Once you start that process, it never stops. You can halt it and get interrupted by it, but it never goes away. You know, it's not something that, you know, once you start that breath intake process and you start really integrating that higher photonic light into your physical body, that doesn't ever like go back to it's not like I say on Chutes and Ladders where you hit then you slide all the way back down to the beginning and have to start again. It's not like that, you know, but you can halt the process. And here's what I would say too about the people around you. You get to a point where you've taken your power back to the degree that they can't mess with it's like my guy, what I called my handler just went away or whoever, you know, because they can't mess with you and your personal energy field anymore. But they can go through technology. It's very easy for them to go through technology. So anything that will frustrate you, messing with your phone, your computer, your car, you know, things breaking down in your environment, they'll try and go through you that way, or they'll definitely go through unconscious people in your environment, especially people that utilize substances really heavily. And so they're not in a place to be conscious. So anybody who's going to get drunk to the point of blacking out or using drugs to the point of blacking out, they will absolutely go through somebody else. It's almost like a possession. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. And if they can take you out that way, you know, I think that's why we're seeing so many sort of like Jason A. I like a lot of his videos, and he's got a few videos where he just shows circumstance after circumstance in the last 2 years of, you know, husbands mostly, because it's I hate to say it, but it's usually men, not women, but it has been women killing, you know, their partner, but having no recollection of it the next morning, you know, and truly not meaning to. But I think that goes into those of us that are coming forward. They want to stop us. They don't want us to share that message because we're creating the ripple effect that's changing the timeline in a beautiful way. And if they can stop that, they will, you know. And I've had my own experiences with that. Like my guy, you know, they definitely had stuff come through, you know, through my kids or my guy, you know, trying to throw me
for
off.
younger people, you know, growing up, you know, not only does the husband, sometimes they'll, you know, abuse the kids or smack them around and not even remember it the next day, you know. So
yeah. And so we just have to be really careful who we let into our energy field at this point. And I would say that goes especially double time for intimacy. You know, I think it's going to get to a point where casual sex, like swipe left, you know, and just hooking up with somebody random, that's going to go out, because it's going to become much more of a Kundalini awakening, a mind meld almost. It's going to become so much more significant. And ladies, we're the ones that take the energy in and complete the circle. So be very careful of who you're letting into your energetic field, because, you know, when we're done, we still hold some of that energy. So, you know,
and the connection's still there too. I think once the awareness of what's really happening, you know, goes beyond just, oh, it was just a fling or whatever. When you see what's really going on, then you see, you know, how much more serious it is that you know, consider who you're getting in bed with, as using the term in the actual way it's usually used for other people.
Yeah, I even remember my guy saying to me at one point, I think I'd been in the crystalline DNA activation process about a year, but there was a moment where he's like, that's next level. Like, what just happened? Like, because I think we activated his Kundalini a little bit, you know, but he was like, I don't even know. Let's do that again. Like, that was, I don't even know what just happened. That was awesome. But it's just, you know, it's stayed at that kind of heightened position. So I think more and more people will start to notice that. And I know Luna Ash has talked a lot about too, like twin flames and the astral connecting right now, which a lot of people in the physical are starting to meet either a soulmate or somebody that's really significant for them. And a lot of relationships are crashing right now. The frequencies of some people who are awakening and their partner is choosing maybe not to undergo this, you're going to start seeing splits on that, because people are just not going to be able to stay in a relationship that they're not being supported at anymore, you know. And so I think they're starting to manifest new partners in, because everybody deserves to be loved and supported, you know. And so I have a lot of people writing me saying my 20-year marriage is broken up, or I'm awake and they think I'm crazy and I just can't do this anymore, you know. So just
I think and I think that's a great point, but not really a blanket statement, because I've noticed people going the other extreme too, where it's like, you know, it's like maybe they shouldn't just throw something away, you know. So I think you really have to, you know, I think that's where meditation and asking your guides and taking some time to, before you make any, you know, huge life-changing decisions, to really, you know, say a prayer or meditate on it, or, you know, just ask for guidance or confirmations of what you should do. All of these things would be helpful before you actually, you know, pull the trigger. Yeah, exactly.
And I completely agree with you. And I'm glad that you did bring that up, because me and my guy, I mean, I was awake so much before him, you know, and I have to give him so much credit though. I mean, I really thought, you know, it's so outside of his field. And here's how we have tests come in though. That's really interesting. His first wife actually joined a cult and went completely nutso for a while. So for him, when I started having these awakenings, for him, those PTSD fears came, oh my God, I plugged into this woman in a way that I thought I would never do again. And now is she going nutso too? You know, like what's going on? So it was a big trial for him to really, like you said, take the time and say, is the love worth it? And is she actually crazy? First of all, you know, and I also had to meditate on it too and go, just because our frequencies are very different, is the connection so strong that we can weather this? And you know, we both fought for it. So like you said, you really just have to really ask for guidance and take the time, you know, before you decision.
Because a lot of times they say your twin flames are supposed to push your buttons and stuff. So if you're supposed to wake each other up and you sort of bail on the relationship, it might not be the right move. So I'm not saying I know either way. I'm just saying that I think that's something to really consider before, like we said, pull the trigger.
Right. And then I think that's a really, really valid point too. You know, a lot of people think soulmate, twin flame, they're going to come in, it's going to be this perfect heaven. And, you know, it's like the movies, it's love it. And yes, there's a connection, but somebody put out like the 8 stages of twin flame runner relationship. And for me, it was like, check, 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 check. You know, it was like completely right on the money. And I think they're going to be mirrors. So anything that you've got a deficit in, they're going to highlight and amplify. And so for a long time, I did that with him. And especially here's another thing we should touch on. A lot of times with soulmate connections or huge soul contracts or whatever you want, twin flames, whatever, one has been through an immense trauma, usually, is how it works. I sometimes think that one takes on trauma for the other one so they don't have to go through it as much. And with my guy, that would certainly make sense, because he's just that kind of strong guy that would do that. But he went through such immense trauma that, you know, when unconditional love comes in, or you've got somebody that you've got this soul contract with, or whatever you want to say, they have to work through that, you know, and so they're gonna, it's like when I used to go pick my kid up from daycare and they'll be like, he was fabulous all day. And I show up and he's like, you know, and like, why is he being such a jerk to me now? And they're like, because he saved it all for you because he feels safe with you. So you'll have that, you know, when you meet somebody that they might release all that on you because you're safe for them. And so it's just trying to find that balance of how you can work through that together and keep the connection. But it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies in the beginning. You're going to set each other off for a little bit. So.
Yeah. And I've heard it several times now where somebody, you know, that, you know, they were with someone that was just not awake and seemed like an NPC. And then they began to wake up and they didn't give up on them. So, I mean, who's going to love somebody, you know, if you've been with somebody 20 or 25 years, you might be the only person that's willing to love them through it until they wake up or something. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I kept saying too, you know, it's like when with my guy, I went and had our numerology done and I'm a 7, my core number is 7, but his was 2. And I thought, how is that even possible? Because he was not into the spiritual thing. He, like I said, thought I was nutso for a long time. And, you know, but I thought, but when he wakes up, it's going to be amazing, you know, because really, and he's starting to ask those questions. He's starting to, we've gotten to the point where I had to say to him at one point, look, I completely love you unconditionally, no matter what. If you can't do this, that is okay. And I accept that. It would make me terribly sad and I don't know what I would do, but I would accept that because I get it. This is a really crazy thing. But you have to at least acknowledge I've proved that there's something happening at this point. But it took him a long time to get to that place where he was like, okay, it took my family, it took my, you know, but then we feed back into that Mandela effect somewhat. Cause now, you know, in the beginning, I tried to show my parents and my kids the videos I was making where I was proving that this thing was happening. And my son and my mother both said in one day, I put my video on the big screen for my parents once, and my mom turned her chair all the way around and she said, even if I see it, I won't believe it because I don't believe in the impossible. And I thought, but it's not impossible if I'm showing it. Like, how is that? I'm your daughter. I'm right here in front of you. But it just goes into that people when they're not ready. My son said the same thing, not knowing my mother said it earlier the same, you know, that day. And I was like, what? But now my mom says, well, I've always been sparkly because my mom's sparkly too. And I was like, no, that's Mandela effect. You have not always been sparkly like a vampire from Twilight, or it wouldn't have been a big deal in the movie. Like if everybody was running around sparkly, that they wouldn't have been in the movie because it wouldn't be abnormal. Like
Totally.
What is happening?
Kate's asking what a core number is. Is that different than the life path numbers?
You know, I'm not sure which I'm not fabulous with numerology. It's not my area. It's like your I think it might be your life path number, but it's like the base number that you have. I know that there's 3 numbers and it's the second one, whichever that one is. So please forgive me. It's not my field of expertise, but
yeah, me neither.
It might be your life path number as that second one. I know you've got 3 and it's the second one for both of us.
Somebody always tells me my numbers. So
yeah, I had to look mine up and do a whole
thing. Is it from your birth date?
Yes. Yeah. From your birth date. I think your name and your birth date, I think, is taken into account. Yeah, on that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I took a video where they figure it out for you, honestly. That's how I did it.
But it was funny because I looked up one of those videos and way back when somebody said, you're a life path 9, aren't you? And I was like, I don't know. And gave them my birthday and they told me, they're like, yeah, I knew you were a 9. I could tell by how you are and stuff. I'm like, neat. So I was checking different people in the family, you know, and some of them matched with how it said and some of them didn't. So I don't really know.
Right. And I think, you know, too, like I tell people all the time, you know, our vibrations, some of us, I think, came in already activated with maybe another strand or just already activated in a certain way. I think most of us did, you know, but we were also put in these biological or geographical locations because we naturally raise the vibration of those around us. Some of us were put into biological family situations because we were supposed to be the one that clears that karma because this end time, beginning new phase. I don't like when people say end times. It just sounds so dramatic and like, that's it, final. You know, but whereas we're going into this new phase, we had to clear out all that old karma. The planet is clearing out all that old karma. So some of us were brought in, I think, as specialists, you know, to really be able to transmute some of that. I mean, if you look at some of our family situations, I think a lot of people are like, oh, that makes sense now. Because my family's a mess. And I'm the only normal. I'm just kidding. Abnormal, but normal one. You know what I mean?
Well, now it depends on the perspective because I know a lot of us, from their perspective, we're the only crazy one.
That's what, I was like, with my family, I'm a little bad. I won't finish that sentence, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
She's a wild one, that one.
Yeah, that's really funny how that works. Well, I really enjoy that. I can't believe an hour's already gone by. It's already been 3 minutes.
It's so funny. At one point I was looking down and I was like, yep. I looked down right at 144 and I'm like, yep, there you go.
Yeah, we got 173 people. So what do you got coming down? Anything interesting you want to share before we?
No, just really still, I think, pushing forth with documenting that that physical process. Like I said at the beginning, it just people weren't ready for it. It felt like there was such a niche, but now it's like so many people are talking about it on so many different channels, and even with our community at the very beginning, even those who were like, I reached out to every big name possible because I didn't want to start putting stuff out and lead people in the wrong way. Not that I'm leading anybody, but I reached out to Magenta Pixie and Lisa Renee and, all these big names. And of course they're so busy right now, but it was like, please just confirm that what I'm showing is what you're saying, because I never want to lead somebody down the wrong path. But I think at the very beginning, everybody thought I was a little nuts. And so they were like, we're just going to wait and see how this plays out before we start to really trust her. But now that so many more people are talking about it, it's like I can put a link on something and instantly people are like, oh, you're showing that because I've heard about it. And I want to see what that looks like.
Right.
So I'm just going to continue to push forth with that. I do some Ormus stuff now, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. So
that's interesting. Are you able to take on more orders?
I think so. Like I said, I might have to get a production set up here at some point, but it's not a terribly difficult process. It just takes a lot of time. But yeah, I started just selling that a couple months ago, and it started to really take off. So a lot more people.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that as far as your experience with taking it has been, because you've been taking it for what, 1.5 years or so?
Yeah, about 1.5 years, I want to say, maybe almost 2. And it goes right back into that synchronicity, what we were talking about, that you will naturally be led to what your physical body needs to help you integrate this higher light. And my physical body was very, very sick after my surgeries. Like I said, I'd always been sickly too. I'd been diagnosed with lupus at a very early age and had these weird symptoms that I think sometimes Rh negatives have, that the doctors are just like, let me Google that. I don't know. And so the only thing they can really give you, unless they're going to cut it out, is a pharmaceutical. They don't really ever treat the symptomatic causes as far as our Western culture goes. And so when I was really sick, my kidneys, I just came from the doctor, my kidneys were shutting down. I was pissing blood, and my doctor had said, I just don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep you out of the hospital at this rate. You're going downhill really fast. I had multiple systemic infections at that point. And it's funny because my phone just opened up and some video about Ormus started playing, and I'd never heard of it before in my life. Like never, didn't know anything about it. I'd heard about colloidal silver, but I'm like, what is this? No idea. So I just started researching it. And I think I researched it for, almost 6 months before I really thought I'm going to try making it. But I only made it because I couldn't afford it. Honestly, there was only a few places selling it and it was outrageous. So I just thought, well, shoot, I'll just try making it. And it took me about 1 year to get the formulation really, really right. But for me, after 2 months of taking it, I was able to get off 2 pharmaceutical meds completely. I just didn't need them anymore. I just wasn't having any of the symptoms. I'm down to only 1 pharmaceutical med left, and I'm only taking like 1/4 of a pill on that one. So I'm almost off that one. So that's the first time in my life I've been off all pharmaceuticals. And then I just stopped getting sick. I haven't had a cold or a flu since I started taking it. Like everybody else in my family has gone down. I used to be the first one that would need antibiotics. I just don't get any of that anymore. The only sickness that I have gotten is through intimacy related issues, I would say, just girl issues. But I haven't got, I guess my body is just at this heightened state. I have more energy. I have more clarity. And it's not just a physical thing for me. It just helped with my spiritual connection as well. It helped with
during meditation and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It helped. I think it's just helped the entire process for me, mentally, physically, spiritually. But I do say to everybody, you don't want to become dependent on it. I don't think it's a good idea to become dependent on anything. I think that takes your power away. But the thing I love about Ormus is it's just Dead Sea salts, distilled water, and washing soda, the formula that I use. And washing soda is just baking soda without the aluminum. So there's really just such a simplistic process to make it. But for me, it was just like, you get to put your intentions into it. It's like that Dr. Emoto's work. If people aren't familiar with his work, they should check it out. And I think that has the hugest part to do with it, And so when I make my batches, I'm always feeding intentions into it for a full DNA awakening for the best and highest good of the individual. I don't think everybody should just be fully awakened at the same time. You know what I mean? Like I said, you really still have to honor each person's sacred process. But, I always say full health. But I did have one of my, the very first person who actually was an ex-boyfriend of mine from way 20 years ago, but we stay in contact. And he sent me some testimonial, and he said he'd been very, very sick when he started taking it. He'd had a heart surgery very early on in life, and he was looking at having a lot of medical complications. And so he had, and he trusted me, he trusted my thought process, and he said, I'm going to try it. And he said, within a couple of months, he had a 98 alt liver enzyme test go to normal, to 20s and 30s. So he was looking at having to have a liver biopsy, and he was like, I really think that your Ormus helped a huge amount with that. So, that's a huge testimonial right there, So
definitely.
I think it plays way differently.
We had people that sort of joined in late, and they were asking about, because I have Ascension Symptoms in the title. So briefly, we were just talking about the sparkles on the skin, some of the changes with our vision. And she's actually got a video where she was showing photographs. She's been documenting probably, a year or so?
2 years.
Yeah, these, she calls them fractals or DNA code upgrades. It depends on who you're talking to, but it's filaments. Different things like that. So if you're having any experiences like that, you can check that video out and see if it's similar to what you're experiencing. But I think it's all, this change that we're all going through. One of the things that I heard about the Mandela Effect was the irises.
The hexagonal.
Yeah, what's up with that? That'd be cool, huh?
So yeah, we want to talk eyes. I was just thinking, someone wants to know Ascension symptoms. One of the first Ascension symptoms a lot of people notice is the blurry eyes, right? They'll start noticing that their eyes are blurry, that they have extra discharge in the morning. It's like you wake up and your eyes are glued shut together. That's that crystalline fluid coming down from the pineal gland. So it's like you have pink eye and you kind of have to like scrape your eyes open. Now my tears actually will harden in my eyes. It's like it turns to like a crystalline glass almost. It's really, really crazy. So women who have to wear eye makeup, I'm with you on that. That's difficult. But what I would say too is hexagonal pupils. Here's a good one. I have a video that I actually put out. It's in there's one by itself, a standalone, but then I also put an enhanced clip in my video called Special for those who don't remember. And I'll see if I can link it in that exact part when we get done. But I actually show how not only do I change my pupils on command, not just into hexagons, but into multiple other shapes rapidly on command. Like it's insane. Like you literally see both of my pupils change into multiple shapes. And I actually have slowed that film down to 2 times its normal speed. So some people might say that you get that during a download, but I've noticed that I think some of us just, it's going to sound a little weird. I think when we start to activate more and more of this crystalline DNA, shapeshifting is an ability that we will inherently have. Some people will say that's a certain strand of DNA.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, some people instantly there's a guy who does like reptilian videos, so I'm surprised he hasn't been like, look at this, she's reptilian, everybody.
A lot of those are fake though, just so people know. And one way you can tell is that it's fake is when the eye turns into the slit, the reptilian looking slit. If the shine on the eye looks like it gets smeared long ways as well, it's fake, because most of them you can tell immediately it's fake, because if the shine on the eye changes, then somebody actually went in there and photoshopped it to look like it's being turned into a reptilian thing. But if it stays a little perfect little shine, then maybe it's real. But that's one of the key things I can always tell with the fake ones.
Yeah, mine, like you'll see the reptilian slit, and you'll see like even a heart, and you'll just see multiple weird shapes just take form. And you will notice in that enhanced video that there's two lines right where my pupils are that are a little bit lighter, but I had to lighten that up so that you could really see the pupil better. So I didn't enhance the video in any other way than just make it a little bit brighter so people could see that. But yeah, it's awesome. It's a trip. So, but a lot of people in the Reddit forums and stuff are saying it's Mandela Effect. Yeah, that we now have hexagonal pupils. And so it's like, and I'm like, wait, it's not just hexagons. Wait. And in fact, one time my eyes got stuck in that slit, like reptilian slit, and I was needing to go to the store, but they stayed that way for like half an hour. And I was like, oh God, no, I can't go out like this. Out. So it's like, oh, please go back to normal. Not ready. Totally. Right.
Yeah. So, another one that freaked me out is that the horses now have horizontal slits, and their eyes rotate in their head as they walk, and their head bobs. The slit stays like parallel with the horizon. And it's and of course, you read about it, it's like, oh, they've always been like that. Like, no, I mean, I went on horseback rides. Their eyes did not look like this.
No, they didn't. I didn't know that's a new one for me. I'm going to check that out because that's fascinating.
Yeah. Horses have some of them have mustaches now, really big, hilarious looking mustaches. What? Yeah. So anybody that's sort of new to the Mandela Effect, you haven't checked this out, look up for horse eyes, and then look up horses with mustaches because it's hilarious. And then for people to be like, no, we've always had horses with mustaches. Some of them look like they ate a Barbie and the hair is sticking out of their mouth. It's
I gotta look. As soon as we get done, I'm gonna check that out. It is so awesome. That is so awesome.
Well, you guys definitely want to check out T. Taylor's channel. I do have her link below. So if you haven't subscribed, go show her some love. And she's part of the team definitely here. And love to have you back sometime. This is a great discussion.
Yeah, but fast. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. And like I said, I think it's just important, like you said at the very beginning, just to get ahead of this. You know, I know a lot of people when they contact me out of fear, you know, because they're like, I've Googled my symptoms and there's two things that now at least I show up. So what was Morgellons? Yeah, it was about the only thing that would show up. Or yeah, if you Google pupil changes, you're gonna get reptilian shapeshifters. So, you know, there's not a lot of other material out there. So so many people when they reach out to me are like, you are the first person showing the process that has a different perspective that's not terrible, you know. And I think that's what it's about, is just getting ahead and letting somebody else know that you're not alone, you're not the only one going through this. It is a real process, whatever that ends up being, but that we should be able to discuss this openly with each other, and that, you know, there's just a blackout on it on mainstream. They're not gonna want you to know this is happening. It's the last thing they want you to know.
Are you in a hurry to get out of here by any chance?
No, not really. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Somebody's Nancy is asking about staring in the mirror and how your face can change constantly. Have you done that?
Yeah, that's how I notice my pupils. Yeah, and that's how I catch. You know, I'm a girl, so I get ready. You know, so we're in the mirror a little bit more than guys. So I think some of us women catch this a little bit more because we're like primping. But yeah, I actually just had somebody else reach out to me the other day and say, "Have you taken video of the morphing that happens?" And you know, yeah, I haven't taken any documentation of that because you really need somebody else to be able to hold the camera at some point to catch some of this stuff. But a lot of people have written me and said that has happened for them, that they have actually watched as their face morphs, or their pupils, their eyes, or something of that nature, some part of their body structure.
I don't feel like it can be videotaped though. Do you?
I have a theory on the videotaping. I feel like, because a lot of people have also written me and said that they've tried to videotape the glitter, or that they've tried to videotape some of this other stuff that they're seeing come out, and they can't catch it. They just can't catch it. And I said a million times, if you watch my stuff, I've said it's like trying to capture between dimensions. And so you'll notice I get really mad at my camera a lot, and I'm always like, focus, because it never wants to focus. It's like it does not know what to do with that. So I don't know that you can catch some of that. I really just don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I think as the veils fall, you'll be able to more and more, but technology does, yeah, it's really difficult to catch some of that stuff. And I think for me, it's just part of my ability that I kind of force it to be caught, because that's just part, you know, I'm bringing it forth. And I think I have some help sometimes with that. But yeah, there's a lot of times that I thought I've caught something, and then I go back and it's not there. And it's like,
I just feel like it's sort of, sometimes it's a spiritual or a third eye thing. And unless you get a third eye camera.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like trying to catch a different dimensional camera. Exactly. Yeah. Some of that stuff is not going to be able to be seen with your regular eyes, especially. And even though you might see it and maybe you do capture it, like somebody else can be standing right next to you. And if they're not on the same frequency, they're like, I don't see anything you're saying. And you're like, what?
Right. Well, me and my daughters, my wife, we've all done this trick where you set a mirror up in front of you and you put a candle there and you just stare, you know, kind of just stare at your face. And after a few minutes, you start turning into someone completely different than yourself. And it sort of, to be that close to a face that isn't yours, pulls you out of it right away. It's hard to stay at that point where you can observe it. But I've seen myself turn into an old Indian chief looking guy and a young looking Middle Eastern person, an older looking Asian woman, just wild stuff. I don't know if it's previous lives or what the heck it is, but it's not just your eyes playing tricks on you. It's you seeing something. And I don't feel like I could have, if I had a video camera there, I don't feel like it would have seen it. It seems very spiritual.
And you might not just be human. You might see you shifting I've shifted into shapes that you know, it's not human. It's not something I would recommend. But you're right. It immediately catches you so off guard that it freaks you out a little bit. No matter how out of you are, it's unnerving, because you're like, that's me, but that's not me. What just happened? And then you're like, am I going to stay that way? Like, what's happening? Like, what?
Yeah. And you get a shot of adrenaline in it that sort of pulls you out of it. So you can only observe it for a split second, and then as soon as you relax, it'll do it again, freak you out, and then, but it's neat though. It's and it's like at first I thought it was just the light and the shadow playing tricks, but some of them, like you'll see like a little boy's face, and you're like, that's not even the same shape as my head, you know?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the one for me was when when I shifted into something that I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't human, you know, and it was, and I remember it didn't scare me, but it was so unnerving that it pulled me out right away. And I just remember thinking, okay, before I'd seen that before a little bit with, you know, different, like you were saying, different human personas. But this was the first one that I was like, that is not shadow. That is not light. I'm absolutely sure I saw what I saw, you know. But then I needed a minute, you know, and then I didn't want to do it again for a second. You know, that was like a year ago. I'm like, okay, take a second.
Yeah, my daughter said, why don't you do it again? I'm like, that's all right.
That's all right.
I'm like, I don't need to see anymore. I know it works. You know, somebody's saying it's an esoteric technique for seeing past incarnations. And I can see that, because the Indian had the head plume thing and everything. So how did I see that?
Right.
That's just strange.
Right. I've also seen Indian. I think a lot of us who are, you know, forerunners, I think a lot of us had Native American lives, because I think they're so on the money with the way that they follow universal law. You know, I think that was a very good transition for a lot of us when we came in early before we got to this other point where we were going to be really stuck into that 3D system. Yeah.
But yeah, somebody's asking how you do it. You just basically set up. I use a candle that's got like 3 wicks in it, so it's a little bit brighter, and it's kind of takes away from the shadow a little bit more. And I just really I put the mirror about where the camera is from me, with the candle between, just shining on my face, and it's really how much you can stop moving your eyes around and just stare. And that's where you're seeing a double face. You want to see your face with like just 2 eyes. You don't want to like look beyond your face, but you just stare at your face. I usually look around the 3rd eye or on the top of the nose, and I just take my whole face in, and it will change, you know, and it doesn't take long. We're talking like you might get 5 different faces in 5 minutes or something.
Right.
You know?
And I'd also add doing it at night when the veils are thinner is a lot easier too. And also if you add an affirmation out loud, like a lot of times I'll say, I'm ready to see beyond the illusion, I'm ready to see the truth. I'm ready to see what I really look like. And so if you kind of allow yourself to put that intention behind it too, I think that helps as well.
Yeah. And add some protection too. I think that'll help you not freak out so bad too. Because
yeah, and say for my best and highest good, right? Always, yeah. Don't show me anything that's not for no tricks, no bad guys coming in, but for my best and highest good, right?
So I've only got your YouTube channel linked below, but is there a way that do you have like a Facebook thing?
I do have a Facebook. I do have a Facebook profile. I can try and link that. Usually on all my vids in the description box, I also have a link for my Facebook profile as well, so I can.
Okay.
I think it's just under T Taylor again.
Is that the best way for the Ormus though?
Yeah, Ormus. Yeah, in every video I have, there's a link to order my Ormus. There's several ways that you can order. It's actually on a website too. I have a friend of mine, Chung Wei Lau, who has an incredible website, and so he's got my products on there as well. But yeah, you can pay through PayPal and order, or Facebook, or even snail mail. I take money orders. So
that's cool. So yeah, definitely. So that you guys can actually click the link to the video I have, or her channel, and just click on any of the videos and look in the description.
Yeah, there would be several links on how to order. I think there are several in each video. But I also tell people, if you can make it yourself too, I mean, that's you putting your intentions into it, which is, sometimes even better. So, I certainly get that it takes a while to get the process refined to the point where, you're not going to, because the pH level, I will say about Ormus, if you are going to make your own, some videos do not discuss the pH level. And if you go too high, that can actually be toxic. So you do need to just be aware of that. And Ormus only precipitates or sets up once you reach a certain pH. So you have to kind of find this balance in between a couple of pHs. So it's very easy to do though. It just is time consuming, so. Yeah,
I've done it with plants before where you have to make sure it's not too alkaline, not too acidic or whatever.
Right. But I do think for people who are in that very beginning purging and detoxing phase of this physical process, I think it's a huge, if you're having a lot of physical issues and you're detoxing a lot of nastiness, because that happens at the beginning, we have to get all of that crap out. It does help you kickstart into your physical body being able to integrate more light. I do think it is helpful. But like I said, I don't think anybody should get stuck on it for any, if you start becoming dependent on anything, like you're giving your power away. Right.
Imagination Warrior Michelle Wolf from Tuesday's show says, make sure you pass along how much I love this conversation. to you. So,
love you, Michelle. I love your conversations. Thank you for watching.
one big happy family here.
Right. Yeah. And I can't wait for you to have Magenta Pixie on. She was one of the very first people that when I had this physical process start happening, I didn't know what was happening. Like I said, I really just had no idea. And so she was one of the very first people, her and Lisa Transcendence Brown, that were like, there is a crystalline DNA process. And so for her, she has saved my sanity more times than I can count. And I really adore her. So that'll be a great show.
Oh, I'm super excited about that. It'll be within the next couple of weeks. We didn't want to actually give a date because she's dealing with personal things, but yeah, it's planned within the next couple of weeks. So be looking for that. What else? Oh, her book. I've been getting so many confirmations. So definitely want to pick up her newest book and begin to read it. And you might have some questions you want to ask her when she does come on. So definitely a great read. Matter of fact, for those who are broke, I started with reading, there's a preview, like a couple of chapters. And then I was so hooked by the end of that I was like, I'm going to have to just go ahead and buy it because it's
right.
I'm having her on anyway. I justified spending the money. You know what I mean?
Well, you're an interviewer. So yeah, it's like, I have to research on this, right? Yeah,
exactly. But it's awesome. So yeah, definitely go check out what you can read for free if you don't have the money. And you'll come up with the rest of it if it hooks you like it did me. So.
Yeah, and the energy will flow in the right way if you really want to read it. Yeah, it'll flow. That you'll figure it out, right?
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on, T. Taylor.
Thank you for having me. It was fabulous. It went quick. So yeah, if anybody has any questions we didn't answer, I'll look at the comment section after this is over and try and keep up if you have any questions, or come over to my channel and ask them too. So.
All right.
Yeah, for having me. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Peace.
All right. Bye.
And we are clear. Well, that was awesome.